Well, here I am back with a video. I am watching myself play the final battle of Renegade Platinum. It is a very difficult ROM hack of Pokemon Platinum, where some people have described it more as a boss rush game than a standard Pokemon game. But any of that is just prior to what has happened here. I have just arrived at the final battle. I have defeated the Elite Four, except for its champion, Cynthia. I have a team here of 5 Pokemon, as one of my Pokemon has died. They are Hippowdon, Electivire, Clefable, Torterra, and Drapion. That is the 5 that I am taking in to battle Cynthia. The thing that I'm looking at here is the fact that in this game, Cynthia has 4 different teams to choose from, and she will randomly select them when you challenge her. The worst team for me is the one that leads with a Clefable, because my Electivire can't handle that. Of course, that is the one that I get. I had pretty darn good luck leading up to Cynthia, so running into this Clefable was a pretty logical consequence of all the luck I'd had so far. I take a little time here to try to figure out what the best solution is. Honestly, I had lines for all of the other teams that Cynthia had, but I didn't really know what I was going to do with this specific team. I led the Electivire because it was good against the leads of 2 of the 4 fights and acceptable against the third, so I had a 75% chance of that going well. This was not it. I ultimately will decide on not sticking with the Electivire here and instead going with the Hippowdon. Hippowdon has Sandstream, which will kick up a sandstorm as it comes out and chip away at any of my opponents that are not ground, rock, or steel types. So I get some Stealth Rocks up to make sure that things that are coming in take some damage, and fortunately for me, Cynthia decides to heal her Clefable, since it's slower than my Hippowdon, thinking that I could hurt it significantly and that it is trying to stall for some reason. Not sure why, but it seems to work out for me. So as I mentioned, this is a hardcore Nuzlocke that I am at the end of here. That means I have not used any items in battle other than held items. I have had all of the Pokemon that have ever fainted be considered no longer available to me. Minus special attack doesn't matter, their Hippowdon's a physical attacker. And I have used every resource this game has given me, with the exception of Giratina. Giratina just feels a little bit too strong, and I used other legendaries that the game gave me. I used TMs, I used Substitute. Anything that was allowed by the way the hack was made, I used, except Giratina just didn't feel right for some reason. I am down 1 Pokemon here. At the start of this fight, I lost my Staraptor to the Aaron fight. It was an acceptable loss. I was able to get through the rest of the Elite Four to here by losing only 1 more Pokemon. This Hippowdon has not seen much use in the game up until the Elite Four. I didn't bring it to too many fights. It wasn't really on the team very often, but its ability to have healing through Slack Off, have Stealth Rock, and have Sandstream just felt like something I was gonna need in these 5 fights in a row. I originally recorded audio along with this, but unfortunately messed up one of the settings and the audio didn't save. Here I'm trying to break down the Clefable with Earthquakes. I need a high roll, as you can kind of see there, the 44.9 to 53.1%. I am rolling poorly each time because I keep on not quite killing it. at the very least, I'm kind of slowly making a slight improvement, I think, based on the sand, the leftovers, the healing from soft boiled and the earthquakes. But all it would take is a crit or a high roll, and I would be back on even footing. And there is the even footing. Clefable down, so Cynthia now at 5 remaining Pokemon. This game throws Melodic at me next. I am pretty sure that it's going to Hydro Pump, which would kill my Hippowdon. A Hydro Pump could not kill my Electivire unless it crit, so that is a pretty safe, well, safe is not the right word, that is a decent option. There are other things that I could bring in that wouldn't necessarily die to a Hydro Pump, like my Torterra cannot be crit because of its shell armor, but then the Ice Beam afterward would definitely kill my Torterra, and I don't want that. So my reasoning is the best option I have is to bring in Electivire. If it doesn't get crit, I can kill the Melodic with a Wild Charge. So Maryland, unfortunately, does get crit. And that is the end of the light screen, which is relatively convenient, but I am down one of my best Pokemon. Electivire has been absolutely carrying me for the last, I don't know, 10 hours of the game, something crazy. Just the entirety of the Elite Four area, everything since I picked up the Electivire, well, the Electabuzz that I evolved to an Electivire, has just been so much easier because of it. I have to figure out exactly what I'm going to do here. There's not an obvious answer in my mind, so I go with the Drapion. This Drapion isn't following the normal naming conventions because it is traded from an NPC in the game. If you happen to catch a Cherubi, you can trade an NPC that Cherubi for this Drapion, and it's a pretty solid Pokemon. It doesn't have the ability that you'd ideally want, which is the anti-crit armor. I think it's battle armor instead of shell armor, which is what Torterra has. But here I am just trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to do after Melodic, because there is a chance that Cross Poison kills Melodic here, but that brings in Garchomp, which Drapion is not really equipped to handle at the moment. So I'm trying to work out what the best solution to that problem is. What I'm considering doing is the Swords Dance to ensure that my Cross Poison will kill, and then will deal a little bit more to Garchomp. That is what I ultimately land on. Hydro Pump crit here would kill and would have been a problem, but my thinking was there's not much likelihood it's going to get 2 crits in a row. Obviously could have happened, but at some point you gotta just not play around the crits anymore. Cross Poison does indeed kill after the Swords Dance, and the next thing to come in will be Garchomp, as the leftovers do kind of counteract the Sandstorm or Sting. And I'm just looking for what the best choice is here, whether I take the extra damage on Garchomp or have something try to come in. One of the problems is the Drapion is so low at this point that any of Garchomp's moves have a chance to kill it. So it could use Earthquake, Outrage, or Stone Edge, which is harder for something of mine to come in on safely. If it was just like I could guarantee Outrage, it'd be easy for Clefable to come in. So I ultimately knock off, taking away the Yachi Berry and sacrificing Drapion to the Garchomp. So I'm down to 3 Pokemon: Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and California. Doing some thinking about exactly what line gets me closest to the finish here. The Fable means it can't use Outrage, has enough damage to kill it from where it currently is with Draining Kiss, and there is a chance it will use Sword Stance, so that is the best possible scenario at the moment. I suppose the best possible scenario is I use Substitute, and then it uses Sword Stance twice, and then I use the Draining Kiss, but this works out just fine. Garchomp hits an Earthquake, Rhode Island, the Clefable kills with Draining Kiss, heals itself up a bit, counteracts the Sandstorm with its healing from leftovers, and brings in the Roserade. The Roserade is almost certainly using Sludge Bomb here, as it is the only thing that guaranteed kills my Clefable. I have one thing that can take a Sludge Bomb with any reasonable amount of efficacy, and that is Hippowdon. As my Torterra is a Grass type, it takes potentially over half from a Sludge Bomb, and since it is slower than the Roserade that is a Choice Scarf Roserade, so it will always use the first move that it chooses. That would be a guaranteed death for my Torterra. So I realize at some point that it can't switch to Energy Ball because of the Choice Scarf. That's what I was afraid of initially. So all I have to do is not get poisoned, and I get poisoned, and not get crit. So not ideal, but not getting crit helps, and I just need to keep not getting crit and slacking off, healing up, and letting the Sandstorm chip down the Roserade. Now I don't want to let it get too low, because if it gets to a certain percentage, and it's not an exact science in my mind, but somewhere around a third, there's a chance that the computer will throw a full restore at the Roserade, which is not what I want, because I will run out of slack offs and earthquakes relatively soon. So, as I mentioned, I am just astonished to even be in this fight. I thought I was going to lose much sooner. But I am here trying to stave off defeat at the hands of the champion, continuing to heal myself. A crit here doesn't kill Hippowdon anymore. It's not ideal, but I'm out of the death zone. Poison makes that a little more complicated, but the leftovers combined with slack off, combined with me not taking damage for being a ground type from the Sandstorm, is helping. So this slack off plan that honestly had not paid too many dividends before the Elite Four has really helped during it, and I am going to use my last Earthquake to finish off this Roserade. That leaves two Pokemon, and one of them is a Lopunny. Lopunny with a Life Orb. This Lopunny can do a couple of things. It can Fake Out, which always goes first and makes me flinch, which costs me my turn. Decent free damage, but considering it's in a Sandstorm, that also gives me at least something. It can High Jump Kick. That can miss, and if it does, it hurts itself. It can Mega Kick, which has a pretty big miss chance. I want to say it's like 75% accurate, something like that. And it can Ice Punch, which would be terrible if it happened to my Torterra, so I really don't want to swap Torterra in on an unknown here. I'm trying to keep it as healthy as possible because it's, in my opinion, the best thing for the final Pokemon. And so I'm hoping to 1v1 with that, even if I need to sacrifice the other two to kill this Lopunny. Massachusetts could theoretically survive some ranges of the high jump kick or the mega kick. I'm not sure. No, I'm wrong. It can't survive any of those ranges, but yeah, no, it doesn't survive any of those ranges. It could survive an ice punch, but the idea is that it could miss, and so what I am planning to do here is press superpower, and if the Lopunny misses, Hippowdon kills it and heals with leftovers. And if the Lopunny hits, Hippowdon dies, and I go on with my next plan. Sand digs away at the Lopunny, but I don't think that my Hippowdon can survive any hit from anything, so I am reluctant to switch here. Maybe if Clefable were at full health, I would have considered it. But because Clefable's a little bit hurt, because Torterra is so important, I ultimately eat the Fake Out here. Now there's no chance that Hippowdon survives even on an Ice Punch, and because I absolutely cannot have an Ice Punch hit Torterra, and I don't want to risk the freeze, or all sorts of other things that could happen with an Ice Punch, I just click Superpower here, and die to a Mega Kick. Bringing me down to 2 Pokemon, same as the champion has left. Again, I am debating what the best way to deal with this Lopunny is, and ultimately I decide that the Fable is the one that will deal with it. Fortunate there that it misses a Mega Kick. That Mega Kick would have had to crit to kill, so I was in a decent spot there, but I'm in a much better one considering that it missed. Nearly full health after the leftovers gain. Leaving only Mismagius. So I'm pretty confident that Torterra can 1v1 this. That's what I'm checking right now. As long as Rhode Island lasts long enough for the chip to get it to 87.6% healthy, then Torterra can kill in one hit. It's slower, but it can't be crit, so it won't die to any one thing Mismagius does. So I guess it's not really a 1v1, to be fair. Rhode Island using Lucky Cheat here just to prevent crits against itself. Torterra already unable to be crit thanks to its ability, but trying to last at least one more turn, deal a little bit of damage with Draining Kiss. So now it is in range for Torterra to kill, but I don't want to swap to Torterra because if it took a High Roll Moonblast into another High Roll Moonblast, Torterra would die, and with Clefable paralyzed, there's no guarantees that I would win. So I sacrifice Clefable. I'm actually very glad that it died there, because if this took too much more sand damage, there was a chance that Cynthia would heal, which I do not want. So I click Woodhammer, and after taking a Moonblast, California survives the fight, and I've defeated the Elite Four, including Cynthia. That is all of Pokemon Renegade Platinum defeated in a hardcore Nuzlocke setting. No items in battle other than held items. Everything fainting. That then becomes dead. And I'm just still kind of shocked that I won here. I had lost so many things. My death box was overflowing. I had about 17 or 20 Pokemon to choose from total instead of the, over double, maybe triple that I had in total. This game gives you a ton of encounters and a ton of tools, but it's also really, really hard. I am super pleased to be done with this challenge, and that I can say that I've defeated it. Renegade Platinum is a very hard game to Nuzlocke, and I have succeeded. And some luck, there's always going to be some, but also some bad luck with that Hydro Pump crit. Anyway, thank you for watching. This has been the end of another Nuzlocke challenge. Who knows? Maybe I'll do another one sometime soon. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.